Táfáilte Roith. You're very welcome to the IRL presentation of Our Life Among the Trees. We're so grateful for our friend Clarence Catchy, who brought us to a new understanding of the teaching of the people of this region around trees and how important they are in life. Please join us as we stand on sacred ground on the land that was home to the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, and neutral peoples from time immemorial, and with whom we share this land today. And share it with deep gratitude for all they teach us, have taught us, and will teach us to keep us well into our future.
Ame, bonjour, Sego. I'm Kiwi Tinway in the night. Translates into North Windman. I'm from the people of the Mushkegowuk, people of the river. Chapel Cree First Nation, Fox Lake Reserve, Bear Clan, and I'm a beautiful person. I'd like to give thanks for this day. I'd like to give thanks for this life. I'd like to give thanks for the air that I breathe and the food that I eat. I'd like to acknowledge the territories that we're on. I'd like to acknowledge the nations of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, and the neutral peoples. I ask that the ancestors of those nations be with us today. I ask that the grandmothers and grandfathers of those nations be with us today. I ask that we come together in unity, in peace, in strength. And I ask that we stay all rooted in our faiths and our beliefs.
Trees are amongst the most highly evolved plant life on this planet. They are ancient life, and in them there is so much wisdom and knowledge. Trees really teach us about mutually respectful relationships. If we look at their relationship with squirrels, for example, squirrels at the end of the winter season, when they're really needing an energy boost, they can turn to the trees, they make a little notch in the maples, and the maple in return gives them a boost of energy. And the little squirrels, for their part, they take the seeds and nuts of the tree, and they're such good planters, they bury them in the soil, patting them down. And trees that have large nuts, like the acorns from the oak tree, the squirrels do a great job of carrying them further to make sure that the little trees have a real chance of growing. Trees and squirrels are in a mutually respectful relationship. There is balance and harmony. And us people, we are also in relationship to the trees. The trees give us so much. They offer us shelter. We can create our homes with them. They offer us their seeds and their nuts to eat. They also offer us warmth from the dead wood. Without trees, we human beings wouldn't be so evolved as we are today because we needed to use their wood for cooking. Trees are very generous with us. And in return, are we upholding a mutually respectful relationship with the trees? So like the oak tree, we often talk about the acorn as being, having so much potential within it. And we too have so much potential within us. We have so much to offer and so much to give. We are the acorns of our ancestors. All of their hopes and dreams, all of their labors went into helping us to be here today. And we have the honor and the duty of fulfilling our potential. Some seeds have, been planted beside the mother trees and grow up in the forest of their people. But others, like the Irish community here in Kitchener-Waterloo, have been carried far afield, like the dandelion seeds that float across the wind. And just in the same way that children blow on dandelion seeds and make a wish, we are the wish of our ancestors. We are the hopes and dreams of our ancestors. And we want to learn from the trees how to fulfill our potential here in this world.
Mighty oaks, king of the forests. Oaks can live to up to 1,000 years in the beautiful moist climate of Ireland. They are significant. They spread out their wide canopy to receive the sun, and their branches also touch the ground to receive nutrients and to spread out secondary roots to bring nourishment. So the branches both reach down and reach up to receive the sunshine. What a beautiful example of living in a holistic way. We are called also to pay attention to this mighty influence in our lives and to look to the oak tree for the spiritual gifts that we need. Often we have to name ourselves as strong and sturdy and capable, and the oak can be the doorway into our own strength. We have much to learn from the mighty oak. It has been said that the oak is the heartbeat of the world, and that the future vision and dream for our wellness as humanity is to restore the oak groves in our world.
The deep rootedness of trees speak to the many seasons that have come and gone in the life of the tree. And these roots tell another story about mutual relationships, about balance and harmony. For those hub trees, the mother trees in the forest, who are getting so much sunlight, they draw that sunlight down into them in the forms of sugars that they store down in their roots, the sugars they don't need. And down beneath the forest floor, we have mycelium, a fungi that needs that sugar and feeds off the sugar stored in the roots. In return, this mycelium creates a network throughout the forest floor, a network of mycelium, of fungi. And trees actually use this network to communicate with each other. They can sense whether there's nutrients in one place and they can draw it into another place through that. They can also communicate if there's a threat to one tree, it communicates that through the mycelium to the other trees in the forest. So we can see the mutually beneficial, the harmony and the balance that has been created. And we know that hub trees, those trees who seem to get the most sunlight, they're not being selfish. They're drawing it down and they share it with other trees in the tree and plant community. And it's said that if a mother tree, a hub tree, is cut down, that the chance of survival of the small trees is substantially reduced. We see really a great example of mutual relationships, of balance and harmony.
Just like trees have roots, Celtic people have roots too. They belong to each other in community. And trees were very important. They understood that the wellness of trees really was important to their wellness. Their spiritual leaders, the Druids, recognized the sacred nature of the medicine and the gift of life that came from the trees. The air that we breathe in common was significant for the wellness of all of creation. The Celtic saints coming behind them also recognized the importance of living in forests and in remote places and being gifted by sunshine and the community of growing things that lived in the forest. In fact, Patrick, on his coming to Ireland and seeing the devastation of an oak grove, said the hardest sound to hear on the heart was the sound of an axe of a tree on a tree in Ireland. So they had a deep sense of connectedness. All weddings and important coronations and contracts and agreements for peace and prosperity were signed under the canopy of the trees. They bore witness to all kinds of history and story. They were considered a part of community. And so their well-being and their monitoring was important, because so went the world as they knew it in those days. And we too are called to pay attention to the trees that bear witness to our life and how we bear witness to their wellness. We have a relationship that's deeply rooted in our common heritage, history, and community that we share with each other.
Let's consider the trunk of the tree. The trunk of the tree is such a vital, important part. The trunk is between the roots and the branches and leaves of the tree. And the roots take the nourishment and the substances that are needed to help the tree to grow and extend through its branches. And in turn, the branches take the light and the photosynthesis and take down those sugars down into the roots of the tree. And the trunk is the channel in which all of this passes. And that's why the tree puts so much effort and focus into growing a sturdy, steady, and strong trunk.
The Celts, as in other ancient cultures, believed in the great tree of life, which was the connection of this world to the world above and the continuous harmony that is created between all worlds. There was no beginning and no end. This tree of life, also called the Axis Mundi, was a great connection between all the seasons, both of natural life and of human life. The beginning of restoration, renewal, and community. It was a healing and helpful symbol in their culture and in their philosophy of life. They invited us into the understanding that life has no beginning and no end, and we grow and we flourish when we take what we need from above and below to create a center of unity within ourselves. I invite you to come now into the forest or close to a tree in your neighborhood and stand as you would, with your feet firmly planted and your arms raised high to the sky, and be like a tree. Feel like a tree, and allow the sunlight or wind or rain to sit on your skin, and just allow yourself to feel what it might feel like to be a tree. Drink in the stillness, be aware of the birds, be aware of the starlight or sunshine or cloud forms that pass you by. The Celts believed in this Cultúrna Creana as the whole beginning of creation. It was the song that started life, the song of the trees. As we glance at the branches of the mighty willow, we're reminded how important this beautiful tree was to the Celts. It was called the Sally tree, and that is a letter that is used in the Om alphabet. So it's part of the sacred gathering of the ones that give air and give medicine and give wellness to a community of people. And it was greatly valued for its building material. It was strong and bendable. The willow had an important pain medication that people really valued. It is a significant part of the Irish landscape to this day, and it's harvested carefully for the sustaining of coming generations. When a farmer takes some willow from a common willow bed, he often makes an offering to give back to the community and will bring a willow basket to his neighbour. It was always a part of rites of barter and exchange of the bounty of creation, and is still honoured to this day. And it does require lots of water, and so it's deeply connected with water and intuition in the Celtic spiritual space. Its bendable branches make it very useful in all kinds of ways of building and making materials. The beautiful, useful willow, part of an ancient landscape and part of our wellness today. The spiritual gift that it gives to us is to remind us to turn to our dreams, to develop our imagination, and to trust in our intuition. The mighty willow.
To the indigenous people, trees are very important because they revolve around culture. They revolve around ceremony. They revolve around healing. They revolve around when people die, with death. You know, it's a full circle with the tree, right? It's a full circle, and that's what makes everything so beautiful.
As we were walking in, Hilary and I we're talking about being transplanted here. That there has been a hospitable space in the landscape of this country. We've got First Nations people that allow us to settle beside each other. And that sort of relationship is also true of how we are with the trees. You know, there is a relationship. We share the common air. We breathe out, they clean it up and send it back to us. You know, we have this deep relationship that's so significant. And in our ancient ways of believing, we believe the trees created language because they're the name. All the names of the trees are the letters of the original alphabet in our lands. And so
Interesting.
every tree has a particular characteristic that gives us the capacity to speak and to sing and to write. So that we can tell our stories because the trees exist. And our origins of our people are in the trees.
Yes.
So we share some of the same understandings about the sacredness of how deeply rooted and how deeply branching we are to be fully human. We have to also be fully trees.
I think that trees are the closest to the Creator or to God than any of us, right? They have that ability to reach up, and they're almost always in that rejoicing prayer connectedness, right?
Whole season.
You know, they're always there. Now, some are a bit smaller than others, and some have to fight a bit harder to get up there. But with that being said, they're all beautiful in their own way.
Yeah.
You know, and it's the same as us. We're all beautiful people, you know, and we're all beautiful. We're all different, but that's what makes us who we are, right? And there's so many different species of trees and plants and animals, you know, but it goes the same with us, you know, and if we just get to know each other a bit more, you know, it's all about respect. It's all about living in harmony. It's all about unity. We're all connected with a common thread, right?
Yeah.
Right. You know. Oh, this is where it's at.
And we believe the founding of the world in our ancient ways was the tree of life, and we believe it will be restored by the life-giving work of the trees that we work together to reforest and care for and bend toward. That will bring about the cleaning of the air and hope for the future. So we've got to be about the work of relationship.
Yes, and the tree could be that bridge, right? The tree could be that bridge to fill those gaps, right? To make that connection, that unity possible.
In looking at the branches of the tree, we can see how trees were ever present in the minds and hearts of the Celtic people. They used trees to write their earliest written form of our Gaelic language. And for this language, which is called Ogham, all you needed was a stick and a knife. And any self-respecting person would have either. You could even use a sharpened flint. So the tools to do this writing were available and accessible to everyone at the time. And it was a very simple form of writing. I have an example of it here, and you can see it didn't take much dexterity to write this form of writing. So not only did the Celtic people use sticks and in some cases stones, particularly to write where the border of a land was or to mark the resting place of a deceased loved one. But in the common everyday usage, a stick or a bigger trunk of a tree would have been used. And as we can guess, we have many examples of Ogham written on stones that remain in Ireland, particularly in the southwest. Over 400 examples of Ogham written there. We have hardly any examples of Ogham written on sticks, and as you can imagine why, they wouldn't have held up. So we don't know if people use this walking into the village to go get butter and milk. They might have been notching this out on their sticks too. Who knows? But a very simple, accessible language. And I want to show you how it works. So usually we start climbing a tree from the bottom to the top, and that's how we read Ogham. And each symbol, not only notched on a piece of tree, each letter symbolizes a tree. So if we start at the bottom here, we can see the letter C, these 4 notches here, and we'll have a center point along the middle of a stick. And when we have letters, sometimes they go to the right, sometimes they go to the left, and sometimes they go from left to right. And between the gaps, there's a little gap and then there's another symbol. We can read these represent different trees. So let's see if we can read it, shall we? Starting from the bottom here, we have 4 notches to the right side, and that would be the letter C for Cull, or for the, let me take my notes, for the hazel, for the hazel tree. And then here we have the letter H, and that would be the letter for the Ua, and that tree is the hawthorn tree. And coming up to our 4 etchings here that span from both sides, we have the Ada, and excuse my pronunciation after 16 years of learning Irish if I'm massacring that one, and that represents the aspen tree. On upwards then we have the letter the letter I for the Iada, which is the yew tree, and then back up on top, we've seen this before, the letter E. This word here means Kayla, and in Irish it means harmony. And what I find really interesting is that the word La Kayla means together and Kayla means harmony. So for the Celtic people, for those Gaelic speakers, harmony equaled togetherness, togetherness equaled harmony. There was no distinction between the two. So in the booklet to accompany this chat that we're having today, you'll have an example of Om, and we invite you to take a moment with a stick or branch of a tree and do these simple etchings, perhaps something that you really value and you want to make sure that you're focusing that in your mutually respectful relationship with nature, with your garden. And maybe you could take that stick then outside as a love note to nature and plant it somewhere in your garden.
The pine. The pine was honoured for its many healthy properties. Butter and milk were safe, for its wood kept rancidity away. Its smell was valued in cleaning and for cooking. It is the first letter in the original alphabet, and that shows the pine tree's great significance. The Druids encouraged walking in pine forests to aid in breathing and to rid the lungs of cold and flus. Its release of biochemicals called pinene has been shown to boost the human immune system. A 20-minute walk will remain in the immune system memory for almost 30 days. The pine forest produces an atmospheric aerosol. When released, it's absorbed by the skin and boosts our wellness. It's important to walk along the pines to heal both body and spirit. And when we look at this beautiful pine, it reminds us of the spiritual gifts which are to take the high road and always, always to look at the big picture.
Thank you for taking the time to join Mairead and myself, Éilír, out here as we learn from the trees. We encourage you to take time to go out to the trees where you are and enter into that balance and harmony, that mutually respectful relationships where you are, whether it be a tree in your own garden or a tree you can see from your window.
And we leave you with these good words of blessing. O tree of life, creator of all, as we wander deeper into the wilderness of this season, the forest is calling us. Come, come stand among us. Come where light and shadow dance as branches sway with the wind. Come in wonder and worship, you powerful and powerless. Come, children and elders, come from all directions. Come learn the secrets of life, dormancy and growth, interconnection and community, rootedness and reaching upward. We confess our devotion to independence, our belief we can go it alone, and our me-first mentality. Heal us from our short-sightedness, so we might see the forest for the trees, recognize our dependence on you and our dependence with all life, from mycelia to majestic pines. Shelter us, O God, in the safety of your strong branches. Strengthen us and nourish us, but keep us humble of heart, and tune our ears to your timbered voice, and tune our hearts to praise. We leave you now. Thank you for being here.